Manhunt, an Ecuadorian migrant who was accused of sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl in Queens Park, has been charged. He has been identified as Christian Inga Landy. After widely circulated wanted pictures and identifying tattoos, community members found the suspect at a deli on 108th Street in Queens, where they beat and tied him up and waited for police to come and arrest him. One of the community members responsible for tying him up
It
was
is definitely a fun thing to hear about. And while I am very, very much a fan of certain people getting the street justice, and especially in this case in particular, given the fact that a little girl's life was affected by this, it still says to me that we've got a bigger problem on our hands. This right here was from the New York Post, and don't worry, we're going to be getting into the actual report itself. We're also going to be talking about the polling information that came out a little over a week ago about the microcrisis and exactly how it is that the American people are starting to feel about this, especially people that are, let's just say, not American citizens, but are in fact waiting in line, because obviously their views have changed. And I have been talking about this for a while. We're going to be talking about that in this video, but we're also going to be talking about the police staffing shortages. And this little report that came out from Fox News, which of course we're going to be just mentioning and passing to kind of give an example of what's going on here and why is it people's opinions are changing over this matter, or they're evolving more and more and more to my type of position on the city of Seattle now bringing in DACA recipients to now be police officers. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. But for the most part, obviously, we're going to be talking about this story that you guys are about to see that came out of New York City involving this Ecuadorian migrant who we just now also found out was ordered to leave the United States 2 years ago, but obviously refused to do so. And of course, nobody enforces the actual laws. And of course, a little girl's life was affected as a result of this.
Here at 5 with people in a Queens community feeling relief. A man accused of raping a 13-year-old girl is under arrest.
And tonight, we're learning new details about how he was tracked down. Good Samaritans spotted him early this morning and held him until officers arrived. It happened less than 3 miles from the park where the assault happened.
CBS 2's Jessica Moore live at the 112 Precinct Station House in Forest Hills, where the suspect is being held right now. Jessica.
Well, Maurice and Christine, the suspect in this case, a 25-year-old Ecuadorian migrant, was taken down by members of his own community who say they recognized him from police photos and took matters into their own hands, beating him so badly officers had to take him to the hospital first before they brought him to the precinct to be questioned.
Before we go any further, you guys obviously saw the opening to this report. I need to go ahead and say this right now. The opinions on illegal immigration in the United States are starting to change. I did a video a while back on why it was that Hispanics were beginning to turn to Trump, and then I also did a follow-up video on the exact same topic. The topic that I was discussing was the YouGov poll, where 62% of the American people now favor mass deportation. Now, I've talked about mass deportation in a previous video, and of course, for whatever reason, YouTube has got this thing where they now are diverting people away from this type of content. Now, that's not going to stop me from posting. I'm not going anywhere. But the point is this right here. People's minds are changing for a multitude of reasons. It just so happened to be that this particular individual, this particular offender, just happened to catch the wrong people on the wrong day, or he found a way to, I don't know, maybe get caught. We also found out through this story that he was recognized by people in the community, but we will get to that here shortly. After a while, some people will begin to wake up and they'll begin to realize, hey, wait a minute. I know that guy. Or, wait. This right here is the guy who did this right here to the little girl. Oh my God, go get him, man. Go get him, man. Call the cops too. And of course, what will happen is that these people will obviously put their hands on this individual. The Good Samaritans, they will put this guy on the ground and they will hold on to him. If something gets out of hand, or if the situation gets violent, then obviously they're going to defend themselves, because they do know that this guy needs to be away from their families and their children. I mean, there's another story that's coming out of Chicago of a 7-year-old that got shot in the neighborhood. Of course, is obviously appalled by this. We're beginning to see more and more and more of this, even though you've got people like the Krasensteins and them telling us that crime is down, when in reality, if you go to the Pew Research Center on crime, they actually break it down perfectly, and you come away with one conclusion, and that one conclusion that you get on crime rates being down, which, by the way, while the crime may be down statistically, it's still way up compared to what it was in 2019. Just figure I'd toss that out there. So therefore, crime really is not actually down. But the point is this right here. When you do cuts to your police department, when you defund your police department, when you change the law to where it is that certain crimes cannot be prosecuted because the elements of certain said crime are no longer fitting because obviously the law has been changed to placate the baddies, then obviously the crime rate itself, the statistics are probably not going to add up to what the actual reality is, meaning that they probably will be lower than what the reality is, but still at the same time, still pretty daggone high and a lot worse than what's actually being represented. But that's another conversation for another day, because I do have a video coming out addressing the crime statistics, and of course not just addressing the crime statistics, but the crime denial itself. But let's continue.
After the violent rape of a 13-year-old girl at Casino Park in Queens, police say they have the man responsible.
Christian!
Led out of the 112th precinct in Forest Hills this afternoon, headed to Queens Criminal Court.
His name is Christian Giovanni Inga Landi. He is a male Hispanic, 25 years old.
Investigators say last Thursday afternoon, Inga Landi used a machete to force a 13-year-old girl and her classmate, a 13-year-old boy, into a wooded area of the park. Inga Landi is accused of tying the teens up with shoelaces and sexually assaulting the girl while the boy was forced to watch. Police circulated photos and surveillance video of the suspect, and around 1 o'clock this morning, their calls for
use the machete. Number one, there goes your gun control narrative. Number two, to go on top of that, he also forced a little boy to watch. I think the word sick is probably the best word that you can use to describe these criminals, and I'm not sitting here trying to blast every single migrant that came across. Biden just fully left the door open on the border, and also to go on top of this, he even encouraged the border crisis back in the 2019 debate cycle. But the thing is this right here, there are some people in there that obviously are going to get, labeled a certain way because some of these people, quite frankly, don't know how to control themselves. Bear in mind, they're all breaking the law, but then again, at the same time, though, and I've been very, very bluntly clear about this, a border wall obviously needs to be up, and we need to obviously curb and fix this illegal immigration problem because, quite frankly, it's illegal. But of course, people like this get in there, gang members, criminals, they get in amongst the crowd, and next thing you know, they take advantage of the extremely lax laws in this nation, especially in these very, very large cities. It's part of the reason why it is that a lot of them are requesting to go to New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, where all the woke DAs are at, because they know they'll get away with their crimes. But let's continue.
Because that situation got me mad. Like, it got me mad. I got two little sisters. I'm about to have a daughter, you know? And it's like, I couldn't let that just walk away. And after that, I ain't gonna lie, everybody knew what's up, and everybody just started beating on him.
Video shows the men who saw Inga Landi called 911 and held him until officers arrived.
The perpetrator has made statements after waiving Miranda rights where he indicated that he has a drug problem, that he found the knife that he used to threaten the two teens, that this was the first time he had ever done anything like this. He IDs himself in video that was shown to him.
Investigators say Inga Landi will be charged with rape, sex abuse, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, weapons charges, and others.
I especially want to thank New Yorkers. There is no greater force multiplied than the eyes and ears of the engaged, fully involved public.
Let me say this. I don't think that that's enough charges, okay? I don't think that is enough charges. I mean, you could have also thrown in border crossing illegal. You could have also thrown in, you could have also thrown in not doing what a judge told him to do, because a judge had actually told him in 2022 to actually leave the country because he was an illegal and he quite frankly shouldn't be here. By the way, of course, I don't know if I mentioned it, but that's actually a charge itself that should have been thrown up there. The fact of the matter is there's actually a lot of different ways you could go with this, but obviously street justice prevailed here. However, here's the problem. You have a woke district attorney in Alvin Bragg, and God knows what's going to happen to this particular guy, because for all we know, he could eventually get let right back into the streets. Either way, though, it was great to see street justice prevail here. And of course, obviously, this story would make it to the national news, which is where we're going to venture off next.
13-year-old girl entered the U.S. illegally through Eagle Pass. Is due back in court this morning. The suspect is now charged with over 8 crimes, including rape, robbery, kidnapping, and sex abuse. Joining us now, NYPD Chief of Patrol, John Schell. Chief, thanks so much for joining us.
How are you? Great to be here.
So you got members of the public that sat on a bodega, knew this guy, saw his face, and then held him down till your guys could come pick him up.
You know, unbelievable. When you look at this, I mean, a tragic event last week. I mean, horrible. Crime scene was horrible. And the work that went into this from our detectives, from the community, to old-fashioned, going door to door, And when the city basically said no. And like you just said, the community, we put the picture out, tips started coming in, we got the video.
That picture was huge because it had the tattoo and everything.
And what was remarkable is when you think about these kids, right, how courageous they were to help us to memorialize what they saw, our sketch artists, the whole totality of circumstances. The whole city said no, the community stepped in, they made it, they tried a little street justice, and we made the apprehension. And it was, the city needed this. We had to give closure to this family.
It was highly courageous of these kids to step in. It was highly courageous of these people to step in and actually put a stop to this, to actually get a hold of this guy, so that way he could not do what he was going to do again. Because let's go ahead and be honest, once you get away with a crime, chances are you're probably going to want to do it again. This guy right here was going to continue to commit crimes over and over and over again until somebody finally put him down. This type of stuff right here is not going to happen somewhere where they actually enforce the law. Which also brings me to this other interesting point, which I'll probably make another video on a later day. I didn't want to make it now because I think it's a bigger project later on, because you got this guy named Jon Stewart on Comedy Central who likes to run his mouth. And of course, he would come out and basically say that the gun owners or red states were the reason why it was that crime was so bad in these blue cities. Of course, he said that after saying that crime was down, which I found to be very, very odd. If you guys just pay attention to their language, you can obviously catch all the contradictions. However, cops who are normally on the ground in these areas, they're normally doing their job. Most of them are. I'm not saying that cops are your friend. I'm not saying that cops aren't your friend, because obviously they can be used for nefarious means, and they can also be used for good means. Typically, small town cops typically tend to be the best cops. And of course, the bigger cities, depending on who's running them, is exactly going to show you exactly how corrupt the department's going to be. A lot of people have said don't trust the cops because they're not your friends, but obviously, for the most part, you'll see in some situations that cops are necessary. And it's one of the reasons why I was against defund the police, not to mention the fact that you obviously need people to, secure the scene so that way ambulances and fire departments can actually arrive to save loved ones and relatives when they're having a heart attack or a stroke. But the point is this right here. The citizens in this case, the civilians in this case, obviously stepped up and wanted to get this guy out of there and get him arrested and get them out of their neighborhood so that way he can not harm another child. In this case, you're a 13-year-old. But then that right there comes back to the whole topic of policing. Let's take a look at this.
You're in a tough position because you got to police the street no matter who's in office, no matter what political party, whether you agree with them personally or not. You got to enforce the laws, and so do your cops on the street. How difficult has it been when you're having to police communities now where you don't know their records? You have no clue where they came from. Although the majority of them are law-abiding citizens, that small factor that are on mopeds causing problems for you, how hard is it?
It's new for us. The city's taken over 200,000 migrants in the last 2 years, and a lot of them here for American Dream, but a small portion are here to commit crimes against our city. Robberies, chain snatches, shooting 2 of our cops 3 weeks ago, shooting us in Times Square, assaulting us in Times Square. It's new for us. It's difficult because we don't know who you are. So we're kind of learning as we go. Every arrest we make, we don't say is he a migrant, but the big events, we see it. I'll give you a staggering stat. Crimes committed on mopeds, fleeing on mopeds, has increased about 200% in the last 2 years. It's tremendous.
Now, I talked a little bit about crime earlier, and I talked about how it was that the crime statistics, people love to cite that crime is down, but when you actually go into the actual numbers and you actually look into the crimes themselves and you look at the entire situation, you find out the police departments have been defunded, which of course is another narrative these people are going to run out there that crime is down, when in reality, crime may be down from 2022, 2021, but it's actually still way above where it was in 2019, 2018 timeframe. And you look at what's going on in police departments, you find out that obviously staffing shortages leads to less arrests, meaning that less arrests means less charges. A lot of people don't know this, but when you arrest somebody, does not always mean that you charge them. You don't actually charge them until the actual booking stage itself or until after you've questioned them. There's a thing called detaining, and of course, if you detain somebody, meaning you put cuffs on, you keep them in the car, or wherever you take them downtown. But of course, when you get there, you got to see if what these people have been suspected of, you got to see if the elements actually match the crime before you actually charge them. A lot of these states have changed the law so that way you can't actually properly charge them or find the elements to actually meet the crime. And of course, to go on top of this, you have a lot more liberal justices letting people go. And of course, in some cases, some of these people get let off, get a ticket, and they're told to come back on the court date. And even then, they don't even show up. Well, if they don't show up and the cops are short-staffed and they can't go pick the guy up, then of course the overall crime rate is going to be down because crimes are not being reported. People are obviously taking note of this, kind of like this story here that comes out of Seattle, where now it is that their police staffing situation is so bad that they've elected to say that DACA recipients can actually now apply. People who, quite frankly, do not have any loyalty to the United States or to the community, the city of Seattle, are now going to be allowed to work. And you wonder why it is that so many people are saying these people have got to go. But then that right there brings me to the last point of this video, the last part. And that right there is why it is that people are, in fact, turning on the topic of letting just anybody and everybody in. Now, I've done a couple of videos on this, but this was a very, very fascinating exchange on CNN the other day, to where even very, very liberal Jim Acosta's body language told me, who I was seeing this right here, that even he thinks that these liberals are crazy. Let's watch.
Is clear. By the way, politically, I don't think the American people are in a amnesty mood right now. You look at what Trump is proposing, there's a lot of polling that shows majority support for what Trump is saying, including among Hispanics in the United States of America. They
what
like
about
what
detention?
Trump is saying
but
about
Scott,
cracking down on illegal immigration.
What about detention camps and mass deportations? What about that?
Mass deportations has majority support in the United States and among Hispanic voters right now. It's recent polling. You can look it up. No. It is Maria, it is absolutely true. When we get off the air and you Google it, you're going to be embarrassed, but it's absolutely true.
I will send you the actual polling from pollsters who actually know how to poll on this issue.
You're going to be embarrassed.
I will send this to you after our segment.
The CBS poll, 53%.
I have issues with that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But I do want to answer Scott.
It's gotten to the point to where now 53% of those who live in the country are possibly here illegally or here legally. It's gotten to the point to where they want these people gone. Well, why in the world would that be the case? Well, when you think about the fact that, what was it?
Tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
When people who have been on the waiting list for so long to try to get citizenship, to try to get legalized, and they see that people coming in are getting free healthcare, free benefits, they're getting all the stuff that these people have been working to try to get, even though they may be here illegally, or maybe they were here illegally and went through the process and did it the right way. Also, the legal immigrants who, by the way, worked their butts off, got here legally, like I said before, and didn't get the benefits that are being offered to these new migrants. Yeah, it's probably going to piss a lot of the people that are already here off, and they're probably going to vote for Trump, or they're probably going to say we need these people gone just out of sheer spite because these people feel betrayed. That was one of the biggest issues back in 2016. It's one of the reasons why Trump's overall Mexican vote was low, was because these people thought that he was crazy. They thought he was saying all kinds of very, very crazy stuff, and it stirred up a very, very negative debate. But of course, over time, people see the economy was better off, the country was better off, and everything that he had said before he left office or after he left office, whichever one you may want to choose, because he says a lot of things, turned out to be true. And now these people are saying, wait a minute. I've been here for 15, 20 years. My kids have been here. My God, I'm trying to get legalized, which, by the way, I've talked about this in previous videos before. I'm not exactly okay with that, too. But if you're here, you're here. And if you've been here for a very, very long time and you're in the system, then okay, at least you're in the system. These people look at this situation, they say to themselves, holy crap, these people they're pandering to these other people. I don't like this. They're giving them benefits that, quite frankly, I've been waiting or been working to get. And that's one of the reasons why it is. That poll says what it is. So how does the left respond?
Friends in Congress that if they were really, really interested in trying to solve this issue, they would join Democrats and do this legislatively, both strong border security as well as expanding legal pathways. That's what works, and that's what the American people support.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that what Joe Biden did on his first day in office, canceling all of Donald Trump's executive orders, hurt him or helped him with the American people on this issue?
It helped our immigration system try to recover from the evisceration of what happened to Donald Trump. Because, see, here's the problem, Scott. Not everything.
Can't answer the question. And also something else, too. Those executive orders were all executive orders that Biden overturned. And, of course, it made the situation a lot worse. You couple what happened in New York, you couple the fact that street justice had to be administered, you couple the crime, you couple not just the crime, but you couple all the benefits that are being given to these new migrants ahead of those who've been here for the longest amount of time, then yes, people are going to get pissed off and people are going to say these people need to go. But you guys tell me what you think. I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. You know, please leave it in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say about this matter. Tell me exactly where I'm wrong, where I'm right. Tell me anything. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.